Hey, it's Larry Sharpe here at FreedomFest, having some amazing conversations here, talking about human respect, talking about morals and ethics, and I'm here with Kyle Angelo. Please, tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Kyle Angelo. I'm the opinion editor at antiwar.com, the news editor at the Libertarian Institute, and I host a show called Conflicts of Interest.
I love that, and because you write about war all the time, I kind of want to talk about war. War is obviously the strongest form of coercion, right? The strongest amount of violence and threat of violence, and sometimes even theft and fraud. All the bad things is what war is. But if you asked anybody out here, they would all tell you war is bad, we shouldn't do war, but we're kind of always at war. War in America is almost either, I would say, it's either in our minds justified somehow or even invisible. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think this does happen a lot. There's not a lot of media coverage of wars. Typically, especially since Vietnam, there's not a lot of Americans dying, even Iraq, Afghanistan. They really downplayed it. And so war isn't real to a lot of Americans. A lot of it is statistics. So we'll hear 400,000 people died in Yemen, but rarely do you hear a story about the Yemeni children who are actually suffering, dying, and
I can't imagine 400,000 people dying. Like, that's not a thing for me to grasp. Like, it's a number, but I don't know what that is.
Right, and really all you do is compare it to other wars and be like, well, 50 million people died during World War II, so how bad could Yemen be?
Right, exactly.
Something like that.
Right.
Where in reality, what's happening...
We could downplay 400,000 dead people. Wow, okay. That's good, yes.
But when you look at it, it's really individual children starving to death, families who have to make decisions whether they're going to get their children malnutrition treatment or cholera treatment, and that means one kid's going to die. Like, parents are honestly choosing, their resources limit them to saving one child, and they have to pick, and this is the reality that the Americans and the Saudis are inflicting on the people of Yemen.
Wow. Okay, but if we understand that the average American, if you told them about war, would say war is bad, there is a point to where most Americans would say, well, no, in this case we can bomb them, or no, well, in this case we can invade, and I think that changes. And that's what I want to talk about. When it comes to politics, people believe that their way obviously is the right way. You should be more liberal or more progressive, or you should be more conservative. And if you want to use coercion to do that, you tend to fall into one of these two here, either Democrat or Republican, right? I want to use coercion to make you progressive, I'm Democrat. I want to use coercion to make you more conservative, Republican. But if we don't do that, and we instead use persuasion, now I feel like we're using human respect. Now we're saying, I don't want to force you. I don't want to make you do the thing. I want to persuade you to do the thing, and that's showing respect. And in the case of war, it's the ultimate of no respect. We're dehumanizing the people, so now it's okay to bomb them. It's okay to do that. I mean, I'm assuming you would agree with something like that.
Oh, absolutely. And we were talking about this before we went on, just the dehumanization that has happened during wars. And I remember when I was a kid, 9/11 happened, and then the consensus among the American people was, yeah, it's bad that innocent Iraqis and Afghans are dying, but there's a small percentage of Muslims that are our enemies, and so we have to kill a whole lot of them to make sure that, 0.1%, 0.5% don't come over here and kill a lot of us. And yeah, that's the way we have to do it, because those people, that's the way we have to treat those people.
So we dehumanize the entire group of people. I remember when I was younger, I joined the Marine Corps back in the 80s, and it was still a Soviet Union. And we were like, oh, the Russians, they're not people, they're communists, they're not people, so we can just kill them. And I completely agree, it's the ultimate in dehumanization. And it makes it, I think, in our minds, okay to take their stuff, bomb them, kill them. It becomes okay when we take away that human respect.
Absolutely, and we hear, those people have been fighting forever, life is cheap in the Orient, those kind of things I think help to really allow Americans to just say, oh yeah, that is kind of true, and then they just move on and think, oh, those people don't matter.
So let's move on to politics then. When is it okay to use coercion, right? I mean, don't we at one point want to use coercion at one point, right? Isn't there a level where we go, persuasion's not going to work, I got to either use violence, threat of violence, theft, fraud, something to get the person to do the thing or to get people to change, right? An example I might say is, what if my intent is a good intent? And I'll bring up the idea of, say, deciding who can be married. Right? Now, when I want to make this rule or law or use coercion, I'm doing it in this case because I care about you. I care about you and your community and your family, your kids. And so I want to make sure the right people are getting married, so we have better child rearing, so we have better communities. I believe that in my heart. In fact, maybe I'm religious, and I believe it's your soul even. So I'm trying to help. My intentions are good when I use this coercion. Is that okay?
No, and it's not even if you're right. On a foreign policy issue, I believe that America could defend itself if it had. So another country comes over here, starts bombing America. We could certainly bomb that country.
So
in our own
coercion
self-defense.
against coercion.
Exactly.
Got it.
But other than that, then no. You bring up gay marriage. We have Uganda as a good example of this.
Right.
A law that was very harmful towards gay people, and America wanted to respond to that by sanctioning Uganda, which is only going to impoverish the Ugandan people. It's not going to hurt the Ugandan government. It's not going to help the Ugandan gays. It's just going to make the country more impoverished, which could probably be used by the government to demonize the gays. They're going to say, look, because of the gay people that we have here, the Americans are sanctioning us, and that's why you all are poor.
Got it. So, wow. So even if my intent is good, in my intent, right, I believe I'm helping, I'm still going to wind up, no matter what, when I use coercion, I am going to make people less happy. I'm going to make them have less harmony, less prosperity, no matter what.
There's a good chance that that's going to be the case, yeah.
So let me go to something else then. Not something that I think some people would call more social. Let me go to something that's more legal. Mm-hmm. Migration, immigration.
Okay.
So now we have rule of law, that matters, right? We have sovereignty, all those things. So now people are crossing the border, and they're undocumented migrants or illegal immigrants, whatever you want to use. They are people who are here against the law. I'll say that, however you want to define them. And don't I want to stop businesses from hiring these people? They're hiring people. It's against the law. Don't I want to use coercion now against these businesses so they don't hire these people?
My top priority is freedom of association. Larry, if you want to hire illegal immigrants, then you should be allowed to do so. Now, if people find out and they want to protest or boycott your business or whatever, then I think they should be allowed to do that as well. Everybody should have the freedom of association. I think when we look at immigration practically, a lot of the problem is our foreign policy, the sanctions on Venezuela, Cuba, our intervention in Haiti that's leading so many people to have unsafe homes that they flee to America because there's some sense of security, but I don't think those people should be, punished, or the business owners punished for hiring anyone.
So you're actually saying that our coercion as a state is actually making things even worse, not just for the people we're punishing, but even for us.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's like a double whammy. So they're getting hurt and we're getting hurt.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay, so even in that case, you're saying, I don't want to use coercion. I want to use persuasion, even in that case.
Absolutely.
So it feels like you're saying that this idea of, showing human respect, even again in the case of Uganda, for people who you disagree with, who you think are totally wrong, you still feel that the idea of human respect and using persuasion, not coercion, is the right answer.
Yes.
So it's almost like it's a natural principle, a natural law. It's a principle that doesn't ever change, that always is the same. Is that true?
Yeah, I agree. And I think from a foreign policy angle, like comparing sanctions, which is an economic penalty against a country, versus diplomacy. So look, if Antony Blinken, our Secretary of State, wants to go to Uganda and stress the government like, hey, it would be really important if you allowed your gays to get married or whatever, the U.S. thinks is a reasonable step for Uganda to take, I think that's an entirely appropriate thing for our Secretary of State to do. What's not appropriate is for him to go over there and start making threats, saying we're going to cut you off from the world economically if you don't abide by our social standards.
Got it. So yes, it's absolutely one. So if we recognize that this is a law, we recognize it's a principle, that it's always the same every time, how can we, maybe in the case of people that we're worried about, maybe we're worried about extremists in the Middle East, can we do something other than bomb them?
Yeah, I do think the U.S. has laws. We have law enforcement agencies. Certainly before 9/11, the U.S. stopped terrorism and punished terrorists by the laws that we already have on our books. Believe it or not, it's illegal to murder people in this country.
I heard that.
So
I did hear that, yes.
If you kill somebody, you could be prosecuted and sent to jail. And actually the first attack on the World Trade Centers, that was 93, I believe.
Yep.
though the perpetrators of that are in jail.
Yep.
So, there are ways to handle this other than just bombing an entire country. And look, if you look at our record from Afghanistan and Iraq, none of the 9/11 terrorists were from Afghanistan or Iraq. And so we tend to be lied into wars and not actually, do anything to make Americans safer anyways.
Got it. So then let me ask the last piece if I could. Human respect to me feels like the right answer for our movement to be talking about, right? Often, and I'm sure it's happened to you too because you have so much knowledge, someone asks you a question and you can probably go into, 6 hours of detail, right? I get it, right? You're passionate about what you do, you write, you obviously have tons of detail, you can probably talk for an hour, 2 hours just on detail, this, that, this. I'm wondering, would it be easier or better if we led with the idea of human respect? In other words, whether I'm left or right, depending upon the time of where we are in America, the left sometimes is more pro-war in rhetoric, the right sometimes more pro-war in rhetoric. If you led with human respect, and that we should respect everybody no matter what, and then let's have a conversation, do you think leading with human respect would be a stronger opening?
It's very possible, and I'm somebody that's probably always going to lead with stats, so
yes.
I'm not going to take this advice that I should, but I have been talking to even people in the Libertarian Party about this and how, when we talk about the war issue, we do need to bring it down to an individual from time to time. And as important as it is to talk about the overall destruction of Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Pakistan, Afghanistan, all these countries that we've completely destroyed. I think unless we bring it down to like the individual and, we got to talk to American mothers about Yemeni mothers. We got to talk to, American teenagers about Iraqi militants and be like, this 17-year-old carrying an AK, that guy's just like you, Here you are in the U.S. wanting to join the military. And I think maybe bringing it to that level is going to, make people feel that those are humans and then they are entitled to the respect that you've been talking about.
I love that. Wow, I appreciate it. Such a great conversation. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Have a good one.
You too.